So today we're going to start setting up your stake pool. I wanted to show you guys a little bit of how to set this up. Now, the first thing you're going to need to do to set up the stake pool is you're going to need a place to host your servers. I told you in one of my previous videos that you're going to need to have 3 servers. You're going to need your block producing node, and you're going to need a couple of relay nodes to add some security and some fault tolerance to your nodes so that you can communicate with the network efficiently. If you want to, you can sign up with a company like AWS or Google Cloud or something like that. Those services are quite good. They're quite reliable, but there's also some other options out there that are a lot cheaper. So I would suggest if you're just getting started, go with a very cheap option. So I've got this option here at contabo.com. Now, I'm not going to endorse this service, right? I don't know if they're good or not, but they are quite a cheap service. So as getting started, I would say just go with the cheap option, test it out, test out your skills. And if you feel like you need more reliability in the future, you can always upgrade to something better, but this should be pretty good for you. So I've created an account here. Just a note, because this is where you're going to host your servers, be sure you use a very strong password when signing up, a very secure password, and be sure to turn on two-factor authentication. I can't stress enough also, when you do your two-factor authentication, you will probably use an authenticator app like Google Authenticator. Be sure that you save your backup codes. There's nothing worse than having servers that you can't get into because maybe your phone breaks or something like that, and you don't have the backup codes that you need to get into your Google Authenticator or whatever authenticator app that you use. But please turn on two-factor authentication because you don't want somebody getting into your servers, because you're going to have a lot of money on these servers, and you just have to have the highest security. So I've created an account here on Contabo, and let's go and check out what we have here. Down here at the bottom, we have these virtual servers. And I'm going to go to this tab here and show you what options that you have and maybe what specs that you would need to set up these servers. Again, these are just my recommendations. They may not be the best, but at least there's something I feel like can keep you going. So we have these VPS servers. These are virtual servers. This may not be the most recommended approach, but these are $13.99 a month, so that's a pretty good cost since you need to have 3 of them. I wouldn't suggest going any lower than this. So this is 16 GB of RAM and about 6 vCPUs, so that's a pretty good setup. Let's go ahead and select this one. If you wanted to go a little bit higher, you could, but this is kind of the minimum one that you're going to need. And this isn't the type of thing where you need like some super huge mega server, but you do need a pretty good specification. So that's why I would suggest this one here. It's a pretty good range. So let's go in now and take a look how you set this up. First thing is you want to set your length. If you're just now getting started, you don't know if you want to make a commitment, you can do 1 month at a time. I think you save a little bit of money if you do 12 months at a time though, so that just is up to you. You can select the region. You can select a region that's close to you. Notice that this has the European region. That's the cheapest. But if you want to go to a different region, you can add on a little bit more money for this server. Now, remember, you're having 3 servers, so going to a different region is going to cost you more. You're going to want all 3 of your servers in the same region just to make sure that they're able to communicate with each other very easily. Now, storage type here, it comes with the SSD as the free storage. What I would actually recommend is upgrading to this NVMe type storage. This is going to be a little bit faster. You can see the price for only 200 GB is a little bit more. I would honestly add on this 200 GB. I think you're going, particularly on your block producing node, you're going to run out of space with the 100 GB. So I would start with 200 GB. Now, why is this? When you replicate the node, you have to store that database. Essentially, every transaction is stored on your machine, and that database can grow quite large. So storage is pretty cheap. You can see it's just $4 a month. I would start with this 200 NVMe machine, but you may have to go with an SSD. SSDs are a little bit slower, but they're not like an old traditional hard drive, so it shouldn't be so bad. Now on your image, I would go with Ubuntu here. This version here is sort of okay. I mean, you can upgrade to a newer version, but this one should be sufficient. I would basically stick with that. Keep things simple. That's again free. Should be completely sufficient for what you need. Now here you're going to put in your initial password. So I would put in, again, very strong password, 12 digits, something like that, even more. Even better, get a password generator and generate some crazy password that is very hard to crack. The longer the password, the more special characters, the more capital letters, numbers, things like that, the harder it's going to be to break. And you definitely don't want a hacker trying to get into your server. So start out with like a super hard password. All this other stuff here with the networking, I would say at this point, don't worry about the private networking. Over time, if you want to make things even more secure, we could do this. But for right now, I feel like it's just going to complicate things for you. So I would just leave the private networking as is. And let's just leave all of this with no add-ons. I don't think you need anything there. So what you're going to do is you're going to click next once you have everything set up. I'm not going to create a brand new server right now, so I'm not going to click next. But if you look here, if you select the 200 GB option, shows your costs here. You have a one-time setup fee. So you're looking at slightly over $23 a month. Really not even per month. That's just the one time. And then you're going to be looking at, about $18, let's say, for a server. Now you're going to need 3 of these. So when you're factoring in your costs, you're going to have to go times 3 on this. A lot of people would ask, what about the specs of the other servers? You need different specs for your block producing versus your relay. I would say for now, to keep it simple, just stick with the same specs for all 3 servers. And as you get more advanced, you want to tweak things, then you can consider making it better, doing more specs. But for now, just keep it simple. And yeah, that's the basics of how you're going to set this up. So what I would do first is set up one of these servers, and then we'll go through the process to configure that server. And then essentially you're going to replicate this process 3 times, and you're going to need to buy 3 servers. I'd keep the 3 servers on the same provider. So I wouldn't get one on Amazon, one on Google Cloud, one on this Contabo thing. I wouldn't do that. I would just, keep them all in the same data center, keep them close to each other. You need them to communicate. So make it easy for yourself. Hopefully you've enjoyed this tutorial, and it will help you to start thinking about the type of servers that you're going to need to set up your Cardano node. Again, remember, I do this to help support my own stake pool, ANCH. So be sure to go and pledge to ANCH. We have close to 40,000 ADA staked on there right now. That's not nearly enough to be producing a block. We have yet to produce a block. So I need a lot of support to help provide this type of content to everybody. So please be sure, if you like this content, you want to support what we're doing, the awareness of the Cardano pools, be sure to go out and pledge more ADA to ANCH, the Anchor of Hope pool. In the link here, I'll put the pool ID and everything, so you can be sure to stake your pledge to that. Thanks.